some reason I forgot to bring my Bible with me today, but I got a verse, my daily verse, on my phone. I liked it a lot. It's from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. I did get my microphone fixed, thankfully, so it's not just coming out of one side for the audio of this video, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better. But I was driving out here today, and I think I'm about 2 hours into this trail, and I haven't seen a soul. Now, last time I had Vegas in the background, and I can see it from here, but I doubt the camera's going to pick it up from here. But it's still there. It's still way out there. I'm more or less on the exact opposite side of where I was last time. And I just couldn't believe that there weren't more people out here today. It's, a little brisk, maybe 55, 60 degrees out. But I've been driving this power line trail for, like I say, the last 2 hours. And again, I couldn't believe that no one was out here and no one else was driving it. I still kind of boggles my mind for how nice it is today. It got me thinking about something I was considering earlier today, which is I was thinking about practicality and the different ways that people define it, the different ways that people take it into account in their daily lives. I was driving through a whole bunch of neighborhoods that had just been built, and, they're tract homes. They're right up next to each other. They're nice houses, don't get me wrong, but to me, I don't see that as practical or good or whatever you want to call it. But the bigger thing that I came across in my head was just how different definitions are from person to person. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. That was what started it. And I started thinking, well, a lot of people would see those homes as practical. You're buying a brand new house, nice neighborhood, freshly built roads, freshly built, amenities, groceries, gas stations, everything else that's around you. And you're thinking, okay, this is going to be, a good investment. It'll be worth a good amount of money over X amount of time. It'll continue to go up in value. It'll build wealth for my family, for myself, for my kids, whatever the answer might be. But you've bought a house that's on maybe an eighth of an acre. Two sides of your house with your windows on them, right? You've got windows on all four sides of your house. Two of those sides serve zero purpose other than to look at your neighbor's wall. That may be the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. Now, I've lived in a couple of those homes, renting or staying with my friends for a little bit here and there. I've been very blessed to live in a lot of different parts around the country and see a lot of different places, houses, whatever you want to call it. But I've never understood that. I've never understood how someone could go, yeah, that's practical. This makes sense. Now, it could be financial, and I get that. But to me, I always see the value as I'd rather live in a small, ratty house on land than live in a tract home that's on an eighth of an acre. Definitions is what kept coming to mind. There's so many things in life as we go through that we understand from our experience, that I understand from my experience much less, that to any one of you makes zero sense, right? And that practicality is that perfect example. What do you need in life, right? That's something that all of us define differently. What makes sense to have? What makes sense to indulge in your daily life? What do you spend money on that's an extracurricular, that makes sense to you, but doesn't make sense to everyone else? Things as simple as your job. Things as simple as, not even spending money on something, but just something you do every day. How much sense does that make, right? Something that I spend a lot of time on is I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I think that there's a lot of knowledge to be gleaned, and I'm not going to say that I sit here and just, try and watch the most knowledgeable and whatever videos, because we all have our guilty pleasures, and I like watching, entertaining videos just as a general whole, but it encapsulates a whole bunch of topics: golf, video games, whatever it might be. Truck content, obviously. To a lot of people, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you watch, X show on Paramount, on Peacock, on Netflix? This is awesome. Why wouldn't you watch Stranger Things? Well, frankly, I could give a fuck about Stranger Things, and I think a lot of that shit is dumb. To be honest, I don't like it, but that's what other people spend their time doing. That's what they like. That's what they see as valuable to spend their time doing and spend their money on. And while I might not agree, they wouldn't agree with how I spend my time. A lot of people wouldn't agree with how with spending 2 hours basically going probably 2 miles an hour down an old power line trail up and down a whole bunch of hills where I'm having to get out and check, down in front of me to make sure I'm not going to scrape the oil pan of the truck. A lot of people wouldn't do that. They don't enjoy it. Again, I think so often in life, we get so caught up in the fact that we don't understand each other. And a lot of the time, I find that people don't want to make an effort to understand why the difference is there or what the difference is. So when when I say that I think this thing is practical, people look at me like I'm retarded. And fair enough in some cases because they've got logic to back it up. And in their case, I severely disagree. But I'm okay with having that disagreement as long as we have the dialogue. And I think it's so interesting that so many people have these different definitions. And I'm always curious about it, but so many people will just, hear something offhand in a conversation, like, disagreements about sports teams. People see that and go, basketball is the perfect example. I think LeBron is the greatest player of all time. I don't. It's easily Jokic or Kobe right now. But people will hear that comment, regardless of which three you want to pick, and then either discount it as the person is stupid or not even ask why they think so. That, to me, is crazier than a lot of the takes people have, is not understanding the definitions and not wanting to understand the definitions that people have for how they are, for why they are. And I can't understand that. But then again, that's me not being willing to understand why people don't want to understand that. And that cognitive dissonance that I have. But something to think about as you go through life is understanding the definitions that people have. And I think that the most important thing within that is being able to understand the definitions that you have for your life. Why? But not just the surface level of why, but the deep roots of why you believe what you believe, why you do what you do, why you're interested in what you're interested in. Being able to explain that, to show people, hey, this is why I believe what I believe. I know I use it, and I use it every video as an example, but it's my prop. I've got it right here. It's the easiest thing. Why would you, for your only vehicle that you have, buy a base model F-250 with 37s, or put 37s on it, have it all off-road kitted out, and then use it to tow a trailer across the country? You know why I think that's practical? You know why I think that makes sense? Because at some point, I might have to use it for this. At some point, I might want to use it for this. At some point, I might want it to use it to get up a mountain. At some point, I might want to use it to run a desert trail. At some point, I might want to use it to do any number of things, and I don't want to have to choose between one. So I choose the best of all worlds. I choose a truck that I don't have to worry about if it gets dirty, if it gets scratched, if it gets anything. It can do all those things. It's got a bed liner, so I don't have to care if I'm going to throw any number of things in here. It's got a gooseneck hitch, so I can tow anything I want to. I've got, any number of things done to this thing for a purpose in my head that people might not understand. And I spend money in a lot of weird places that people don't get, because the people, the trucks that you'll see like this typically are usually a lot nicer, but I don't see that as making any sense. I've got all the same everything as it relates in this environment as they do. I just care less because I can wash my floors out with a hose and everything will be fine. But yeah, I think understanding the definitions around you and that you have for yourself and for everything that's important in your life that you do, that you take pride in, really, really understanding it is something so critical that I think a lot of us take for granted, that a lot of us don't really spend the time to think. And I think more than anything, the thing that I want to get across is use your time alone to think. And don't say, oh, well, it just makes me sad. If it makes you sad, spend the time to think and understand why. Spend the time to understand the definitions around you. Spend the time to understand the things that define you and the world around you in life. And then be interested to understand the definitions and what defines everything else around you, the people around you, your job, the world around you. Spend the time to figure out what defines you. Because you're one step away from finding the greatest thing you may never have found if you never ask the question, why is this thing that way? Why is this person that way? Why is this environment that specific way? How did it come to be that way? Ask the questions. Be curious. Get your definitions. Understand the world around you and who you are. Y'all have a good one. I don't wanna be restless, so running on empty, burning up the road.